Hi, welcome to StoryHive On Location, Vernon. I'm Robb, and we're live in Vernon with another incredibly inspiring episode brought to you by TELUS STORYHIve. Today I'm sitting in the Vibe, a beautiful local artisans gallery in Vernon, and we're speaking with Jonny Braun, a local author with an incredibly inspiring story who recently got his book out in physical copies and I believe on Amazon as well.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, and we're going to learn his story and dive into this incredibly amazing story that he has to tell us. I want to thank you for coming.
Yeah, hey, thanks a lot for having me.
No worries.
Yeah.
Let's start off with who you are, where you're from, and
Sure.
how Black Sheep came to be a thing.
All right, sounds good. Well, I never thought I'd write a book, so we'll start there. My name's Jonny Braun, and I grew up here in Vernon, actually. So I've been here for, I turned 40 this year. So the only time I ever left was to go off for training for 6 months, and I came right back here. So I did 5 years of policing in Enderby. And then I did 2 years here in Vernon, and I actually just started out in Lumby, but we start here in town, so I'm always around here. And yeah, Black Sheep just kind of, I was actually someone from work, because I grew up here. I have a lot of stories from around here, as you'll see in the book. And I was a co-worker who said, "You need to write a book." And I said, "Mike, if I wrote that book, no one would read it." He said, "I'll read that book if you write it." So that's where it started. And then, yeah, more and more people as I was going through like the whole process. It took about a year to get it all right, and then to get it published. And then I did a lot of the artwork and stuff for the cover, but the rest of it's all AI generated in the book. Everyone always bugs me about that because I'm an artist. So why didn't you do it all yourself? I was like, well, the book would take another year because there's 100 images in there. So
fair enough.
Yeah, so it's all based on memories from local area here in Vernon. Spend some time in Merritt and Kamloops and Kelowna. You'll see how the story kind of progresses down to East Vancouver and then all the way back up here. So it's a full circle kind of thing. So.
Love it.
Yeah, so I spent 3 years, approximately 3 years living rough, couch surfing, living in the parks, living in shelters. And then, so I was about 16 years old, had a big blowout with my family, and I left the house, and I didn't come back. I didn't probably see. I started working with my dad actually at the glass plant out in Lavington, and yeah, rest is kind of history. I opened up my own clothing company when I was 21, and then I started splicing fiber for TELUS, for a contractor for TELUS, and then decided when the work started to dry up a little, 2018, and that I think 2 months after I got my degree, I was shipped off to depot for training. So I was going through the application process while in my final year of university, yeah, it was a tough year. Lots of change happened for me during that year, and people, like a lot of the street entrenched people from here, because I worked in the shelters for John Howard for 3 years, I guess, 2 or 3 years. Yeah,
I love it. It's a beautiful transition to go from having a rough life and being in the streets to being one of the people who protects them.
Yeah.
And I love that transition and the fact that there's a story of success stories, because I feel like they're few and far between. It doesn't matter they're few and far between. It doesn't matter how low you can get. And I
thought, oh, where do you have your kids hang out with him? Because he's the street kid. But I was the one keeping him away from all that stuff.
I've had a lot of friends who are like growing up.
Keeping him away from all that stuff.
I've had a lot of friends who are like growing up in Penticton, especially now there's a big issue with like the unhoused situations, and you see it's very difficult for people. It's very difficult for people to get out of.
The writing part was the easy part. The writing part was the easy part, because I didn't have to make anything up. So it actually only took me, I think, maybe 2 or 3 months to write everything. And this is like this is like a watered down version of what it was, because this book is already, for a memoir, it's quite lengthy. And so that was like the struggle of, okay, I've written a new chapter, but I think this chapter needs to be plugged in over here. Because yeah, once you start writing the next chapter, you start thinking, no, that happened before. So that was the biggest struggle for me, was trying to piece together those. Like the memories themselves are very vivid. I can remember them. Piece together those. Like the memories themselves are very vivid. I can remember them like they were yesterday. But chronologically, it was difficult to try to remember when each thing happened. When each thing happened, kind of thing. Yeah.
I can imagine that, like even now.
Kind of thing. Yeah.
I can imagine that, like even now. I'm like, I have memories that pop up. I'm like, I have memories that pop up, and I'm like, I don't remember how old I was or when that happened. And I'm like, I don't remember how old I was or when that happened, but I know it happens, and but I know it happens, and
and I knew nothing about how to write. I knew nothing about how to write a book. I knew nothing about how to publish a book. I knew nothing about how to publish a book, or where to start. So I did a lot of research. So like after the 2 or 3 months of writing the book, that's when all the research started happening of how do I get this out so people can read it. And actually, honestly, Amazon was the best route for me because it's print on demand, so I don't have to buy like 500 copies, and I was able to get them down. To get them down from where they were down to a couple $100 US. But was like, wow, that's super cheap just to have someone else do all that fine detail work that I would have taken me months to try to figure out how to do it. I'm sure it's very simple for a lot of people, but for me, no. And then so they put it all on there. It goes on to Kindle. You have the option of hard copy and paperback. So paperback's like $20 online, so it's a very affordable. I met all like the coolest people, so went to Warped Tour. Yeah.
That's awesome. Were you a musician at all, or did you do art? Just art?
Yeah, mostly art. I played the bass guitar not very well, but I played the bass guitar and we were in some crappy punk rock bands when I was in high school. And it didn't get further than like backyard patios, but yeah.
You can tell by the energy you give off is very punk rock. So I was curious if you played instruments or not. But being an artist, like you said, you did this.
Yeah, so I did a lot of I pieced together the cover. I have an iPad that I use with a pen, and I do a lot of. I can change things up. That's kind of how I started all my marketing stuff as well. Was all on the iPad. Got a 13-inch iPad. I got Procreate, and I just go for the training process. I've done a few where you kind of have to piece together what the eyes look like and the nose and all that stuff. So it's something I've never done before, and it was kind of cool to do.
That is super cool. I couldn't imagine the actual skill set that it takes to do that too, because you're just getting information and then you're having to draw it down and trying to match that image to what it and move away from being an officer, or is it both directions or something you want to do and pursue?
Actually, you know what? I will probably be an officer until, as long as they allow me to continue to do it till I retire. But as for author stuff, this was like my big project. I actually got injured on the job last year, and I was off for a few months. And I really realized I just can't sit around and do nothing, even though I had to sit around because I was injured and I had hurt my back. So, and I started writing it, and my relationship with my parents is great now. And I started like writing it, and I realized like, man, like I really like going really hard on the situation. Like, man, there's still some stuff up there I just need to get out, and I got it out, and then I re-edited it, and I was like, hey, this sounds much better. Like, this is actually what I need to write about. Yeah, so I think I'll probably write maybe one more, and that'll be, so this is a full circle story. It goes from when I left the house when I was 16, and it kind of loops back around to like what I did for work in my 20s, and all the struggles, and I wouldn't call any of it success, but maybe some successes a little bit along the way. But my 20s were a big struggle as well, just not like a different type of struggle. And then in the end, it's me flying off to go to depot, like for training. So that's what I'd like to write about next. That's just going to be that will be the biggest struggle, because anything I write about about the RCMP will have to go through like a huge vetting process so that I'm not writing anything that.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah. Even this, I went and I spoke with upper management just to see specifics. So it's going to be like, it's going to take some time.
I can imagine. And I can imagine that'd be a tricky thing to navigate through too, and having to go with, like you said, upper management and stuff. When this book, you had to let the officers, like your higher above, I guess it would be, read it. Was that intimidating at all for them to like,
Yeah.
or did you walk in and like completely open book to them and be like, hey, this is my background, or were they reading it like, whoa, this guy is epic, like in his own way, like we didn't know this. Like,
Yeah, I don't know if any of them have actually read it because they didn't have to read this one because I didn't write about the RCMP in it. But just having that conversation with them, yeah, it was a little bit. But I know my inspector well. He's always been very supportive, and he's like, yeah, no, I think this is something we can support you in. And then I just had to get it's considered secondary employment, so I just had to get approval for that so that I could do this and then get it out there. Even though this is not taking me any work to do anything anymore, it's out there now.
like you said, you were side by side in the sense of having to like live out of a tent. Like,
Yeah.
not a lot of people ever have to experience that, and to experience that and come out on top and like such a solid person. Like I just sitting and talking to you, I can tell your energy is very humble, loving, and caring person, and that the humble, loving, and caring person, and that probably books have always been the knowledge, and to be part of that, books have always been the knowledge, and to be part of that, like funny enough, when my son was either just born or on his way, I can't remember the timeline, but I wanted to start writing a fantasy series. But I have time right now to do whatever you want and be successful at it if you believe in yourself. And you want and be successful at it if you believe in yourself, and that the inspiration that we get from our trials and tribulations would actually fuels us to become something. And growing up, I never thought that was what like led me to do, was getting to speak with so many. I never thought that was what like led me to do, was getting to speak with so many creative people, like yourself and Gail and all these other incredibly talented people that we've met. With these unique stories that just like need to be told. And I love it because unique stories that just like need to be told. And I love it because like we were talking about the book's called Black Sheep, and we were talking about before, it's like quite common with a lot. The book's called Black Sheep, and we were talking about before, it's like quite common with a lot of people. It's like we get to a point and we're like, need to take a step back and realize.
It's busy. We work at 4 speed with Keanu Reeves, and I was like frontline work. So I did that for 5 years in employment services. Goals of mine that I have within the organization.
Is it hard to climb and get to those points within? I've never.
Much more experience than me that's moved into that role, so that's fair, And one day that'll be me at the top, going, okay, I'm going to apply on this job and maybe I'll get it. So that's kind of where my goals, I guess you could say, are right now. They're just mostly within the organization for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. Has helping people always been something you wanted to do, even at a very young age?
Yeah, I think so.
I like that.
Yeah. I want to do better within the organization. So I was like, I'm going to become a social worker that works for the ministry, and I'm going to make some changes from within the organization. And then, so I got my social work degree, and then I went off to training to do this. So it was kind of like a big piece for me was how people view the organization, how people view police officers. And a lot of people, like I did it too before I became a cop. You don't see past the uniform, you see a cop in uniform. And it's very difficult as an officer to be talking to people and they're kind of stabbed. I've never had a good conversation with a police officer, and I'm like, it's really refreshing to hear that, because you're changing the face of the organization, because you are the face of the organization when you're in the public eye and when you go to files. And so even if it's a very small file, it could be very small for me, because it's important for me for people to know, yeah, I'm being heard, and like my call matters, right? And sometimes it takes time to get to people, and you call them and you're like, I know, yeah. And my first thing I do is go, hey, listen, I'm sorry it's taken us an hour to get to your file. We've been really busy today. That's no excuse on our part, but this is how long it's taken us to get to your file, because we've had some priorities or whatever. But your call is important to us. Let's hear what you have to say, kind of thing, right? So, yeah.
Do you think the tattoos help when you're in a very high respected role, and because it's law, you're the law enforcement, it can be an officer outside of being an officer. So it's kind of like a really like refreshing thing to get and that's where it's like, it's cool that you are as yourself as an artist as well, and moving those waters, pardon me, of creating art, whether it's the cover of your book or writing stories, and so humble and kind. And I think that goes a long way at the end of the day, like especially with the community you're in, like it's a beautiful community. And like what I remember when I lived in Vernon, Polson Park was covered with people, right? And now you drive in and it's like, see families there again.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's a beautiful thing. That's, for me, like I always grew up with Vernon being like, I don't want to say like the ghetto of the Okanagan, but it kind of was. And now it's not so bad. And it's like, it's a beautiful thing. You're like, especially where we are downtown. We're chilling in a beautiful art gallery, right? Yeah, like, Vernon is a beautiful place, and to be like...
But it wasn't something that I acted on until later in life. So early on, I think I was 18 years old, and that was my first tattoo apprenticeship opportunity here in Vernon at Genesis Tattoo, when they were still around here. And then after that, I had 2 other ones that came up when I was in my early 20s. And so tattooing was something that I really wanted to get into, because I just loved art. And then talking to people, I eventually made the decision that this is something I don't want to do, because it was like a therapy for me. It was something that I enjoyed doing. I take up most of my time when I'm not working. But I made the decision that wasn't for me. And then later on, the idea of policing came up again. When I was 30 years old, and I just thought, okay, I'm going to apply and I'm going to see what happens. And I think 10 months later, I was off. That's when I heard I was heading off to depot. So it didn't take long. You just apply, and if you need to defer yourself, then you go ahead and do that and focus on your schooling. But it was 4 months after, no, not even. It was a month after I graduated university when I got the call that I was going off. And then it was like 3 months after that I was heading out. So it was a very quick turnaround.
You said taking something that you love and turning it into a career is very, it drains you. Like that's pretty much why I don't want to do music anymore. Like I'm slowly gravitating away from it, because I've done it for 26 years, and it's like, I don't want to do it anymore. Like I want to pick up a paintbrush now and see what I can focus on that.
Absolutely, you should.
Not do the music for a while, because music itself is like, it's fun, but I feel like we're at a point in the music industry itself that it's like, you can't tell the difference between AI music and human music, and I'm no interest in competing with AI, personally. Just like, it's some of the music, like I keep saying it in the later episodes, that I fell in love with an artist. I didn't find out until I clued in that I wasn't memorizing the lyrics, because it wasn't written by a human. It's just a person putting prompts in, and he's like, go back to the old school stuff, because like, man, like I know what's that. Like we're like jamming to Limp Bizkit on the drum. I'm like, man, that music is good. I can still vibe with this 20 years later. Like, this is awesome. So it's like, it's an inspiring story to hear that you have this amazing journey that you've had, career, which is kind of a cool thing, because like, how many people can say like, hey, I get to be a police sketch artist potentially?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever met somebody who has the skills or the position to do so. So like, that's kind of a cool thing to think about. It's like, have they given you like sketches to do so far?
Yeah.
How hard is that?
Inspired. For that, there's always an inspiration, because you're drawing the same thing. You're drawing human face, and I had never done any human faces before this. Like it was something that I didn't think I would ever draw. I'm not into what they're doing for their work, I think.
Okay.
Because there's a full like a unit for it. But I think the majority of them are going to be people like me who just love drawing and have the ability to do it and the time.
How like The Office works. Like we just finished watching like The Mentalist, and it's like based around police and detectives, and they're doing these crazy crimes, and like you get to see the inner workings through TV. You don't get to see it in reality, so it's like cool to hear how like that's how it comes about. Like that's how they get chosen. It's not like somebody who's just like, oh, I'm a gifted artist that just gets hired. Like it's an actual officer who's a gifted artist. A punk rocker at all helped inspire you to do what you do now, because it is like very, it used to be very against the grain and like, you know, against the man.
Sure.
To become like a punk rocker, to become the man, you know what I mean? Like, has that ever been?
Kind of like, I respect authority, so I lived a little bit of a different life with also enjoying punk rock. And punk rock for me was more about unity. So it was all about like, you know, you'd go to a show and you'd be in the circle pit or you'd be moshing and someone would fall down and someone would always pick you up. Doesn't matter who it is, someone's going to be there to pick you up, right? So it was all about the love, right? It was love. I think they need to like protect that image, or they need to like become that image. For me, it started off, I think the image was really big for me when I first started getting into punk rock, and I realized very quickly, it's not about image at all. I don't need to like keep up with that. That's not who I am. So yeah, but still have love for the music and the art.
I get it now. It's the brotherhood.
Yeah,
that's what. That's why I get it. Okay, it makes that just clicked.
Put it all out. I didn't do much editing. I just kind of figured out where I wanted my chapters to begin and end, about how long I wanted each chapter to be. Some are a little bit longer or shorter, but I kind of wanted to keep it within a certain word count for the chapter, because I'm a slow reader. Because when I read, I like to visualize everything that's going on, and I didn't want to have super lengthy chapters where you couldn't sit down. Because I have some books that I read where I'm like, man, is this gonna like, I'm tired. I want to go to bed, and I'm falling asleep. This chapter is like, there's another 30 pages in it, and I didn't want that. So the chapters are kind of shorter. I think, I can't remember how many chapters there are in it now, but you know, there's quite a few, and there's 2 intros and an outro. So it's chunked out pretty good. I'm like, oh no, I need to get rid of that. Or I need to write that differently or something. You know?
Okay, so you just got it all out and then went backtracked and then pieced it together.
Yeah.
That seems a lot easier than how my brain was working. Because I'm like, oh, you got to write the chapter, go over the chapter, next chapter, and I think that's why I'm only like 5 chapters in. You know what I mean? Because like that makes more sense. I mentioned it was your injury, but like could have done a ton of things with your time and being injured, right?
Yeah, I could have done nothing, I guess.
Right? Like what was it like? I want to write a book. Like I've got this wicked story that needs to be told.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do this.
Touch on some of the stuff that I struggled on early on, maybe some of my mistakes, and I wrote all my mistakes in there, and all the stuff that I would have done differently is all in the book. And just like, there's a lot of youth out there who are struggling and who are going, and their minds haven't fully developed, and they, you know, they see their friends doing things that maybe they think, oh, that's cool, I want to do that, or whatever. Youth program where there's an outreach worker that goes out and he connects with all of these youth in town. And I was like, man, I wish there was something like that when I was a kid. And for the longest time, I was like, well, who am I going to donate to? Because I want the book to be more than just a book that people read. It's not, I didn't do it to make money. I knew I wasn't going to make a lot of money on it. And if I can make more money on it, I'll go buy kids cheeseburgers, or whether it's like $300 and they can do something cool like a year-end party, or whether it's like $3,000 and it actually does something for the program, right? Just something to give back. And that's kind of what this whole story is about. It's just about giving back and trying to help people.
Yeah, you were mentioning that to me, and as soon as you said that, I was like, this guy's got it. Like, this guy's got a story that I want to sit and hear, because that is one thing that I getting to sit down and meet you now and like speak with you, but not just on Facebook, but like you can tell that you just genuinely care. Like there's no, like you said, you're not in it to make money. because most authors don't make money. Let's be real.
Yeah.
There's not youth outreach programs through the RCMP that helps you get in front of these kids and be like, hey, I wrote a book. They'd be like, what do you mean you wrote a book? You know what I mean? So it's like my brain now, what I do is like my gears are turning and like, how can I help in the way I like? So I love hearing the passion that you have for what you do and the change you want to make and the change you have made already, and seeing that there is no like, there's nothing that you can't do if you choose, like, hey, and not even like it was a long period, you know, like 3 years isn't a long time, but a lot of lessons learned, especially being an East fan. Like I can imagine, I've performed in Vancouver many times, and I performed recently last year at Lanaluz, which is right downtown, and it's sad. It's a sad thing to hear people go through like a lot of struggle, whether it's doing bad things for crime or like it doesn't really like really crazy detrimental upbringings, and have come out with like these beautiful stories that it's like, that's the stories I like to tell. And why I like to talk to creative people, because we could easily go and do best restaurant in town, you know what I mean? But it's like I would rather touch base on like something that has sustenance. Like I like to say, like, those kind of stories to me are like McDonald's meals, and like these stories are steak and potatoes. Like this is gonna bring you some sustenance that makes you think, inspires you, and changes. Like who knows, your story could change one person's life, but that one person could change 1 million people's lives. And that all stems back to you and your story. And that's where I love being able to sit and dive. Almost awe-inspiring to see like the difference in just in my lifetime, how things have changed. Because growing up in Penticton, there was a lot of, like I said, I was a teenager running around Penticton and being like, oh, officers, stay away from them. They're gonna throw you in jail, or they're gonna give you trouble. And it's like, I wish when you're speaking with people, because you are covered in tattoos. Like we were talking, like, what? I've never met an officer who's got neck tattoos, and I'm like, we're in a different time, and it's like it's kind of cool to see that you rolled up on a Harley, like you know what I mean? Like you're just a very unique person, and your story is very valuable, not just to the people who need to read it, but to the arts community as well. A lot of us don't know how to make that leap. And there's a lot of artists out there who don't know how to take that first initial step into their journey and how they want to go about, if they want to go about being an artist. And that's why your perspective is a very different one that I've never got to hear, where it's like I steered clear of my art because that.
Well, so I have like a full circle story that is at the end of the book, and probably it was during the time I was in university. And my son was, it's like, dude, what are you doing at university at the time? So I was learning about all this stuff. It's like, dude, what are you doing at university at the time? So I was learning about all this stuff, all the tools that I could use, in order to hopefully help this kid. And I had worked at this in order to hopefully help this kid. And I had worked at the shelter the year prior, I think. So I said, go down there. I told him where to go. And I thought I'd never see him. Again. And then a couple days later, I was working at. Thought I'd see him again. And then a couple days later, I was working at. Thought I'd see him again. I just thought he would go back on the streets and keep doing what he was doing. Because, so he was in that hospital. He would go back on the streets and keep doing what he was doing. Because, so he was in that hospital gown because he had overdosed. He was clean from drugs. He had overdosed. He was clean from drugs, and then he had overdosed. That was his story anyway. And so part of that is in Maine. That was his story anyway. And so part of that is in Maine. You just even have a little string. You just even have a little string of hope that you can have. And if you don't have it, hope that you can have. And if you don't have it, or if you don't see it, there's always people you can reach out to. And I think a lot of people feel like there isn't. And you know, sometimes it's a cop walking down the street that you would never talk to, that maybe will talk to you. And that'll be me. But there's always hope. But there's always hope, and there's always people who, there's always some kind of support, and there's always people who, there's always some kind of support out there, whether you.
Well, thank you for your time.
Out there, whether you.
Well, thank you for your time and your story. This has been absolutely amazing to sit down with you. And your story. This has been absolutely amazing to sit down with you. And I could probably pick your brain for another 3 hours, but we can't. So I want to thank you.